The First Omen. So this is the Omen prequel. I feel like a lot of the time with prequels, especially like legacy prequels to old movies, it often feels like a cash grab or they're just banking on the name of the franchise. But I feel like for this, there was like a good idea. I really like this. I think this is a really great homage to the Omen.
I think you bang on. I thoroughly enjoyed this, James. I thought this worked really well. I think it's really good because we've just recently watched the original Omen. I feel like this is a real complimentary film to go alongside that. Actually, it works. It makes sense. It's left us with some questions and stuff that I'm not sure, is it covered in the sequels or not, or is it leaving it open or whatever. I guess the only moan I've got, and this is not necessarily about the film, James, we've talked before about how films are sometimes like buses. This is literally a couple of weeks after Immaculate, and it's very similar.
There's a lot of points. There's even things I remember saying about Immaculate. Oh, they didn't go there with it. I thought that was where it was going, and that's exactly where this movie is. So it is weird that the two of them came out right next to each other. First point, Nell Tiger-Fee, who stars in this movie, I think was phenomenal in this. Great character. There's particularly towards the end kind of a scene where she's like convulsing for like 2 minutes straight. I thought she really sold it. Like, I think that could have been goofy with someone else.
I mean, yeah, I hear you. It was very good. It was well performed. It went on too long for me, to the point where there was a couple behind me, a young lad and lass, and they started laughing because it got a bit silly. And I'm not really sure why she was convulsing. Was it because she was next to a church?
But I got the sense that she was sort of, I suppose, going to be possessed, I guess, but I don't know why that'd be the case. But it's, you know, when she's going into labor.
It is a powerful scene. For me, it could have done with probably being about half the length.
This movie, I think, does add some really interesting context to the original film. You assume that it's just this cult that's like demon worshippers, but I love the idea that they're not. They're actually like holy people that just want to scare people back to them. Give the Antichrist a couple of years to scare them back to us, and then we'll take him down.
So I thought that was an incredible kind of twist. And I've watched a lot of the follow-on Omen stuff, and I can't remember that ever being a thing. I might be wrong, but I don't remember it ever being sold in that way. I'm not sure, mind, how I feel about this not just being a kind of a mystical thing that's happened. The second coming is supposed to be an immaculate conception. That's what I assumed. This is very much man-made, and I don't know how I feel about that. The original Omen, I just kind of almost always assumed this was just a natural occurrence. Now we know that actually this was being developed and pushed over years and years and years of man-made interference. And what was it that shagged her, James? What was it? What was it?
This is one of the retcons of the movie. So in the original, Father Brennan, who's a character who's in the original, who's also in this, that's Ralph Ineson. I didn't realize that until this morning when I was doing a little bit of research for this.
No, I recognize the name.
Okay, yeah. He says, I was there when he was born. His mother was a jackal. And I think throughout like the Omen lore, it's always been the case that Damien's mom was a jackal. And like that you assumed that it was an immaculate, like the devil was the dad. So this twists that where the father is the jackal, just so you can have this movie happen, I guess.
She's not human either, is she? Because she was born of the jackal having sex with her mum. So then she's born, and then I really was kind of, where's it come from?
That's a great question. How do they get this thing? I thought it was very freaky imagery. Like there is a bit where you see just its fucking spiky dick for a second. It was just like, ugh, this is very unpleasant.
And the hand coming out of the foof was a bit...
There you go. This for me, I think might be the most horrific thing I've ever seen in a movie. So there's a moment where the main character stumbles on like into a birthing room. I'm not sure why there's a birthing room in an orphanage.
Just for a laugh.
Yeah, but there's a woman giving birth, and you can tell there's something not quite right. And next thing you see her lady bits, and a hand, like a demonic hand, just pops out of it. People screamed in the cinema like they were just like gagging and everything. It was I was in shock at what I was looking at.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was great, that bit actually. It was certainly a bit of a shocker. So that wasn't a dream. That actually happened, yeah? Because again, this movie's great. It's a bit confusing as to who's what and what's going on and stuff. So there was a lot of people popping out Antichrists, but they were all deformed. So I'm assuming that one was just a ballsed up one.
I guess so, but then there is moments, like a lot of the scares in this movie come from her having kind of visions. One I thought particularly good scare. Feels very pulled out like the nun, but it worked, it terrified me. But she hangs her cloak up and it's just in darkness. And you can feel it like this thing's gonna start moving or something, and the next thing it turns around and there's like one of the nun characters there.
I felt absolutely stupid in the cinema because that bit is so telegraphed. It's hung up. It looks like a person.
I was waiting for it.
So no, I'm watching it with waiting. Yeah, it's going to happen. It happened. I shit me pants. But I knew it was coming.
It's the anticipation,
Isn't
it? It's just, the shudder. That was a particularly good one, but I think like the scariest moment in this movie, there's a bit where it's sort of in darkness, and earlier on in the movie, one of the nuns gets burnt, and it takes its time, but it's sort of slowly coming out of the darkness. Like it's over, like I think a minute or so, and you just start seeing the face, like, and the horrible smile, and it's just absolutely terrifying, I thought.
I loved that character gives you a call back as well to the Omen with the, it's all for you.
There's a couple of kills I think are references. So the opening of Charles Dance, and I think unfortunately he's not in this more because he's such a great actor. Like I love him.
That was a good twist, mate, because I was expecting the pool to be somewhere, and we don't see the pool.
Exactly, yeah. And then he turns around, and then I thought, oh, this is like a subversion. It's like we're expecting all these Final Destination deaths, but we don't get them. And then he turns around, and you see the back of his head with just a big gape. So I think that's sort of a callback to Father Brennan's death in the original. But then, so you have one of the nuns does the "it's all for you," but they have to up the ante a little bit, Peter. So she sets herself on fire first. I thought that was a great one. I like that they don't overdo that. I would have thought, though, out of all of the kills in the first one, they would have done a decapitation.
Maybe that's a bit expected.
Another great kill was the guy that she fooled around with in the nightclub. So he gets whacked by a car, and then she tries to pull him out, and everyone starts screaming, and she's like, what? And it's just the top half of his body. That was so good.
So he was in on it all, wasn't he? So he was a bad guy as well.
I was a little bit confused. He's there when she's
impregnated by the dog.
Yeah, but then he says, oh, I didn't realize, I didn't know. He says that to her, so I don't know. But I assume because the nun friend, her like promiscuous friend, introduced them, and she was in on it because that's the woman that gave.
Well, that entire thing was a setup, wasn't it?
Yeah, they would get her drunk and she'll pass out, and then we can do this thing. And then that's the nun that gives Thorn the baby at the start of the original. Yeah, I like that. I thought that was a cool connection.
Again, nuns, just horrible people, aren't they?
Oh, they're
awful people.
The twist of the movie. Now, I kind of avoided what this was about going in. I only seen the teaser trailer, and it's very kind of, it's shots in reverse, and you don't really get a sense of what the movie's about. I hadn't seen the second one, so I didn't know they were setting up this little girl at the orphanage to be like, this is supposed to be the First Omen, and that's what the movie's kind of telling you. But in it, I assumed from the get-go that the main girl was the Omen in it.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
I just assumed that from the get-go, and then it tells us this is a little girl, and I was like, yeah, bullshit. And then throughout the movie, she starts saying about, oh, well, I was like you when I was younger, and I was a problem child, and I was shit. I'm like, yeah, obviously. And then it kind of treats that like it's a reveal later on in the movie, and I was just like, yeah, I saw this coming a mile away. It was just painfully obvious.
That was telegraphed. The bit that I'm not sure of, because I've forgotten my Omen lore, as it were, this ends on a bit of a kind of not a cliffhanger, but a tease for a future movie where she's now living with the daughter that came at the same time as Damien. Does that kid feature in any of the future movies?
No, so I think this is disregarding everything else, and it's setting up another movie. So yeah, towards the end, she's like becomes like instantly pregnant. She's like giving birth, and she's surrounded by like pretty much every character from the movie, which I thought was another cool Goosebumps moment. So she gets a C-section, which is horrible to see on screen. I was just like, oh, that's.
I've seen one in real life. It's not nice.
Oh no, thank you. But yeah, so Damien has a twin sister. So my assumption is that like she's almost like the anti-Christ, I guess. That's what they're going for, and they'll battle like at some point.
I presume so. I literally haven't got a clue. But it excited us thinking, ooh, we're going to get more on this franchise. It's setting it up, really, isn't it, for a follow-on now, which I think was great.
I think you do maybe like another movie like The Last Omen, maybe call it, and there'll be a trilogy of films like The First Omen, The Last Omen, or something like that. I think would be cool. But I'm curious if it's going to be like them as teenagers. Are they going to be like adults? We go a bit closer to now. It's like almost this epic kind of battle. I'm not really sure where they go with it, like, because it seems a bit bigger than this movie franchise would do.
It's interesting that it's left it open for it. I'm hoping we're going to get something else. It's not answered me question, but James, when we watched the Omen movie, we still didn't understand why the vicar guy had 666 tattooed on his skin. Is that explained?
I looked this up today. Basically, it's because he abandoned, like, if you abandon God to serve the devil, that shows up on you because it's a mark of the devil. So like all the priests that were in on this would have had that. But in the original movie, he says, I was there when Damien was born. But in this movie, I didn't get the sense that he was ever like helping them at any point. Like he wants to know what they're doing.
I got the sense that he's against everything. Yes, he's being excommunicated, but I think he's been excommunicated because he's against the church.
Yeah, so I think this movie has retroactively made that not make sense anymore. You know, it would have in the context of the original movie. So yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. I did love when they say it's a boy and the Omen theme kicks in. The like,
I've been waiting, Dominus.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for it all through the movie, and then the second it kind of thumps in, I was just grinning. I thought, oh yeah, this is
Great payoff, I thought. Yeah, so I love that.
Hard question: this or Immaculate? Which one do you think was the better movie?
It's really tough. I think Immaculate is more popcorny. I think this is more kind of an artsy horror film. Like even in the way it's sort of like camera shots, like the way there's like these kind of quick zooms mimics that original film. I really respect that. Like the Immaculate's last 20 minutes are just balls to the wall, and I'm loving it. So I don't know, I think I need to sit on it for a little bit. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I did wonder, because of the similarities between this and Immaculate, because I do think they are quite similar in a lot of themes and stuff. I did wonder if at the end we're going to get that scalpel through a baby, you know, to kind of almost replicate the rock scene in Immaculate.
Well, what I thought was going to happen was she'd stab it and then they'd say, oh, that's the girl.
Wrong one. Yeah,
that's why I thought was going to happen, and I would have been like, oh, but it didn't go there. So that's our thoughts on the First Omen. Thank you for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed this, and subscribe to the channel for more horror goodness. We do some cool stuff. We do reviews on pretty much every horror movie that comes out. So have a little look, and we'll see you next time.